G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright, so this Friday, I actually thought this was going to be on a Saturday, but it's actually on a Friday. This Friday, we have Demetrius Andrade versus Jay Quigley in a fight that, I'm going to be frank, I'm going to watch. I might even stay up for it. But I'm fairly sure I know the outcome of this fight. And I'm fairly confident in my prediction for this fight. But nevertheless, it's a fight that I feel warrants a prediction video. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to discuss this fight. I'm going to talk about what I feel both guys need to do in order to get themselves best chance of victory. Now, both guys come into this fight, both at middleweight. Jay Quigley, I think he's now 30. And his only loss came at the hands of Torino Johnson. Now, that fight told me a hell of a lot about Jay Quigley and why I feel he has virtually no chance of winning this fight. It's not just the fact that he lost to Torino Johnson, who was, I think, he was ancient at that stage. It's seen better days. It was I went back and rewatched it the other day. It was the manner of defeat and the lack of adjustments. And he took a pasting in that fight. He was battered from pillar to post. And seeing how he's looked in subsequent fights, it has me believing that Jay Quigley it could be a case of when, not if, he gets taken out by Demetrius Andrade. But I'll touch on Jay Quigley first. So Jay Quigley, he really kind of came to prominence to me certainly in about kind of 2014 and around then. I knew him as an amateur. So in Ireland he was an amateur, he was a decent level amateur, he won a couple of All-Ireland titles here, so I've heard of him prior to that. But he signed with Golden Boy early on in his career, and he was on the shows over there. Now, I remember he got a first round knock, I think it was back in 2016, and there was kind of a bit of hype building around him. And I remember when McGregor was meant to fight Floyd Mayweather, he went on Sky and he guaranteed 100% live on TV that Conor McGregor wouldn't just beat Floyd Mayweather, he'd knock him out cold. Well, how that went, a lot of good that went. But he was able to piggyback off that, got a couple of fights. I think he was meant to fight Gabe Rosado at one point, and I think that fight I'm nearly sure he was meant to fight Rosado at one stage, and that fight ended up getting scrapped. But he kind of plateaued a bit in terms of levels, because obviously he was having his fights in America, so it's kind of harder to gauge a level. I would say he kind of plateaued at European level if you were to talk about him in a UK aspect. He was trained by Manny Robles, then he was trained by Dominic Ingle, he's now trained by Andy Lee. So he showed like decent boxing ability, like he was a decent amateur. He had okay punching power, but whenever he would really let his hands go, he'd always hurt his hand. He had decent power in the right hand, and he hurt that quite badly, I think in 2017. And since then, the knockouts haven't been as frequent, and when he's got the knockouts, they've been against very poor opposition. In terms of like decent level or fringe level, he's not been getting the stoppages in there. So his last fight was against Shane Mosley Jr. Now Shane Mosley Jr. has his father's name but none of his talent, and that was a very close fight. Some people felt that Jay Quigley lost that fight. I think that was back in May of this year. And certainly I feel he nicked it, but it was a close fight, and Shane Mosley Jr. is not someone who you should really be having close competitive fights with for. Now he goes in against Demetrius Andrade, who his career has been somewhat frustrating to watch, it has to be said, but the talent and skill that he has is there certainly for me, is there to see. He just needs to have the right dance partner. He just needs almost a coming out party, which is weird because he's pushing his mid-30s now. So it's kind of a case of now or never for Demetrius Andrade. I don't think he's as good as he was a couple of years back. But when I say, not say regressed, but maybe you could say regressed, but not as much as you think. If he was there in 2016, maybe he's there now. So it's not a massive decline. But I wonder, is his best kind of form or best kind of athletic prime maybe behind him? It's hard to say. But Demetrius Andrade is someone who can switch hit. He is ambidextrous. He is very awkward. He's a good long-range boxer. He's very awkward, but he can fight a little bit up close. Throws very good hooks, very good uppercuts. Can be a little bit wild with the uppercut. Now, it has to be said. Against Liam Williams, he found success very early on with the uppercut. And one thing you'll find with Demetrius Andrade, he can start very quick in fights. In fact, more often than not, he will start extremely quick. And don't be surprised if Jay Quigley's on the canvas within the first few rounds, because he seems to do that a lot, does Demetrius Andrade. Andrade. He will go in there, start extremely quick, really look to let the bombs go early, will lead with uppercuts at times. And what he'll do is he'll put the opponent in his place with the punching power, he'll hurt them. But as you saw in the Liam Williams fight, as it goes down along the stretch, his accuracy tends to wane because he was missing a lot more, as well as Liam Williams making adjustments to an extent in that fight. But he was missing a lot more. The punching power kind of seemed to fade a little bit as he kind of started to tire a bit more down the stretch, and he started to get a bit more clumsy and a bit more easy to kind of get pinned up against the ropes, as Liam Williams showed. So that kind of happened with Demetrius Andrade. Now, saying that, he's been a bit of an odd one because he started quick and then he's kind of had a bit of a lull, but he does tend to end quite well. That's what I've seen. He's got a couple of stoppages late. I remember was it Selecki he stopped late in the 12th round. He stopped Willie Nelson in the 12th. He stopped Luke Keeler in the 9th. So he can get rid of these guys late. I think he just kind of has a bit of a lull kind of mid-fight. Certainly against Liam Williams, some of them rounds were his better rounds, where he was able to kind of... He buzzed Demetrius Andrade as well, believe it or not. Liam Williams was a very good puncher, but he was able to buzz Demetrius Andrade a bit in that fight. So Demetrius Andrade coming into this fight... I think Jay Quigley is not as good as Liam Williams. He's not as proven as Liam Williams, and I just don't think he's as talented. Jay Quigley, when I look at him, I see someone who, when I watched that Torrio Johnson fight, how easy Torrio Johnson was able to get behind his jab, or get past Jay Quigley's jab. When it was on the inside, his defense on the inside was abysmal. I mean, the uppercuts, and that was the one thing I remember looking for when I rewatched that fight was... Because I watched it live at the time in July 2019, but I hadn't seen it since, so I forgot a lot of it. And I was like, does Torrio Johnson land uppercuts? Does he land up? Does he what? And Jay Quigley couldn't adjust to that. So I'm thinking, if Torrio Johnson is landing uppercuts almost at will whenever he goes inside, Demetrius Andrade loves throwing that shot. He will take the head off Jay Quigley with that, especially if Jay Quigley hasn't mastered moving his head, and he didn't in that fight. He was literally, his head was stationary. He was stopped in the 9th round going into the 10th of a 10-rounder. He was really taking a beat. It was a bad beating. Like, when I was watching it, I actually forgot. It's like I said, I watched it live. I never watched it again up until recently, and I forgot how bad of a beating it really was. I guess watching it live, you don't take it, you see it, but you don't realise at the time how bad it was. When I watched it back, I was like, oh my God, why did they wait till the 9th round to pull him out? They should have done it a lot earlier than that. And a fight like that will take it out of you. And as I said, since then, he's had 2 fights against nobodies. He had the Shane Moore. He's not looked quite... There's something missing from Quigley. You know, I never really rated him massively highly before, but there's something definitely missing about him. You know, there's something missing since then. It's almost like that fight took something out of him. Now, if you're Jay Quigley, I would say, to be honest, I know Jay Quigley can box a bit, but I would say probably best bet is to not have a boxing match with Demetrius Andrade. I think he's a better boxer. I think he's got the longer arms, the longer reach. I think he's faster, more athletic, hits harder. I would say, if I'm Andy Lee, I'm thinking maybe you're going to want to try and do some of what Liam Williams did, but try and do it a little bit better. Be wary in the first couple of rounds. Be wary early on, because he's going to come out swinging. Alright, and he's going to be moving all around the ring, and he does. If you get chances, right, don't go headhunting early on. Go to Demetrius Andrade's body, try and tire his legs. Once his legs start to slow down, he will be a bit more stationary, and he won't probably be as reluctant to let his hands go. He's going to lead with uppercuts, right? He does tend to do that a bit. So, a boxing coach will always tell a fighter, if you're ever going to throw an uppercut, throw a punch before it, throw a jab, or maybe throw a right if you're looking to do a left, and maybe dip to your side, throw a left uppercut. But don't ever lead with the uppercut, right? Be on guard for him leading with uppercuts, and try and see if you can sneak a right hand behind it, because your right hand is good. Try not to break it, because he's hurt his right hand before, Jay Quigley. Try and do that, and as well as investing in Demetrius Andrade's body. If the legs can slow down, try and see what you can do on the inside and about backing up against the ropes, because he almost lost himself at times in there against Liam Williams when he was up against the ropes, because the way he can move, sometimes it can be very unorthodox and he can be a bit awkward like that. And I thought at times against Liam Williams he almost lost himself in there, in a sense of when he was getting out of range, he was kind of stopping, moving, and kind of all over the shop. So see if you can kind of get him into that kind of rhythm. Just upset his rhythm. Demetrius Andrade, I think he's a rhythm fighter. To an extent, what I say, not. It's hard to kind of say really, because sometimes he does seem to flow, but other times it can be a bit all over the shop. But just try and offset him as best you can. Get rid of his legs and just try and out. It's easier said than done because you got to be cognizant of defense. Demetrius Andrade can counter punch very well. You got to be cognizant about that. You got to have your head moving, because against Trio Johnson is there. Demetrius Andrade is there, in my opinion. You know, you can't do it against Trio Johnson. Well, you definitely can't do it against Demetrius Andrade. Move your goddamn head. Keep that head moving. Keep him thinking. You know, have it on a pendulum almost. But don't stand there with your head just kind of nicing up like that. Just uppercut me, please. I want to be uppercutted. Don't do that. Keep it moving. Keep your guard tighter. You know, one thing is that he was getting hit with hooks in that Trio Johnson fight because his hands were down a bit low. You know, and he was switching. Now, that was when he was with Dominic Ingle, who does kind of tend to teach that. But he was switching for the sake of it. It was kind of almost a bit kind of like what Kid Galahad did, and kind of what Michael Conlon does to an extent, where they switch just for the sake of it. And that's not good. Like, if you're switching, right, and you know, all right, I'm having more success in the southpaw stance, stay in the southpaw stance. Or vice versa. Demetrius Andrade actually done a very good one when he fought Kulkai. He was switching, and he had more success, I think in the orthodox stance, if memory serves me right. And what did he do? He stayed orthodox for the remainder of the fight. I think it was late on in the fight he realised in the orthodox stance I'm having more success, so he stayed in the orthodox stance. Don't just switch for the sake of it. And don't switch straight in front of your opponent, because that's when you end up getting caught. The prime example would be Sergey Kovalev in the Andre Ward rematch. He went from southpaw to orthodox. Go and have a look. And the minute he did that, switch the stance, walk into a right hand from Andre Ward. So you need to be wary when you're doing that as well, when you're switch hitting them. I'm assuming Jay Quigley might do this in this fight, maybe to try and offset Demetrius Andrade himself. Don't do it for the sake of it. I mean, and if you're having success, if Jay Quigley is in the southpaw stance, he's having success, just stay in there. If you go to orthodox and you're getting lit up, don't go into orthodox then. Stay whatever stance you're having the most success with if you're going to go down the switch hitting road. I don't think you should. I just think you should just stay in his natural stance for the fight. Now, if you're Demetrius Andrade, how are you going to win this fight? Well, I could see this being a bit similar to the Luke Keeler fight. You're going to want to hurt him early. You're going to want to put a bit of pressure on him early. And you're going to want to frustrate Jay Quigley. Jay Quigley can box, but Demetrius Andrade can box better. Demetrius Andrade is a better long-range boxer, in my opinion, than Demetrius Andrade, or than Jay Quigley. He can move better, he's faster, he probably hits harder. He just seems superior in every aspect. So use the advantage that you have, your reach, your movement, your speed, your punching power. If you lead with the uppercut and it works, happy days. I think it might against Jay Quigley because he showed it against Trio Johnson. He's no real defense over it. If it works, happy days. Okay? But if it doesn't, just keep it at long range. Do kind of... Against Luke Keeler, he was very reckless and he was looking for knockouts. He was looking for the big shots. If you look for them, they'll never come. I would say just get on your bike, do your boxing. If Jay Quigley comes at you, he's not the hardest target to miss. So just let it flow, basically, if you're Demetrius Andrade. Keep moving, keep him guessing, sell him some feints. Take your head off center line because he does throw a decent straight right hand. So you don't want to do it. Just keep your head moving and just basically frustrate him. Make him make mistakes, almost like a bull in the matador. Make him make mistakes. Make him come to you. When he gets you on the ropes, you get out of there as quick as you can, as they say. When you feel you're back on the ropes, you feel your foot touching the ropes, move him around and see if you can actually reverse to where Jay Quigley is on the ropes. Because again, on the ropes against Trio Johnson, fish out of water. That's kind of what it looked like. So that's my advice with Demetrius Andrade. I really think Jay Quigley has it all to do in this fight. With Demetrius Andrade, I think that if he boxes his normal fight, he uses the skills which he has so much of. If he lets the straight punches go, because Demetrius Andrade throws very good straight punches too. Go and look at the Brian Rose fight. Straight punches were what really spelled the damage for him. He's a very good straight puncher, Demetrius Andrade, when he lets them go. So I would say just do what works. Do what you've always done. Put him in his place early. If the stoppage comes, it does. If it doesn't, so be it. I'd like to see him get the stoppage just for his sake, to be able to close the show, because sometimes he does tend to get into... Towards the end, he can come out a little bit stronger, but at times he does tend to just kind of collect the rounds rather than, at the end rather than just go for the jugular. He's done it a few times against Willie Nelson, but for the most part he doesn't tend to do it. Go like that, and Jay Quigley has it all to do. So I see Demetrius Andrade winning this fight pretty comfortably. Very wide UD with a couple of knockdowns or potentially a late stoppage. If you want to know what I think, I'm going late stoppage Demetrius Andrade and possibly corner retirement. Possibly either corner retirement or just late stoppage from accumulation, one or the other. Can't see Jay Quigley. I've said that's what Jay Quigley needs to do. Go to the body, try and pressure Demetrius Andrade, try and, if he leads with uppercuts, try and counter. But I think it's an uphill battle. If you're struggling with Shane Mosley Jr., you're getting beat by Torrio Johnson, Demetrius Andrade is going to light you up. That's what I think is going to happen. If I'm wrong, if I'm proven wrong, I'll be the first person to say, got this wrong. Big up to Jay Quigley. I don't see how he can win this fight. I really don't. I was really kind of upset when they announced this guy as the opponent, because I was like, there is better in the WBO top 10, top 15. There is. I don't think Jay Quigley was even that highly ranked, if memory serves me right. So for me, it's like there was better, and I hope that this is the last of Demetrius Andrade taking these kind of fights, and I hope to see him in a big fight in 2022. Hopefully. Possibly unification with Triple G, Murata winner. Who knows? Jaime Munguia, possibly. Who's the WBA champion? Probably. Who is the WBA champion at 160? It's slipped my mind. It's not. It is Murata, isn't it? It is Murata. WBC. Who's the Charlo? I could not think of who I was getting all mixed up there. But there's unifications there. Hopefully we see them in 2022 for Demetrius Andrade. Because I do rate him. I do think he's a good fighter. I just think his career has been a bit frustrating to watch. But I do think this fight will be a formality for him. Personally. Again, could be wrong. Open to be proven wrong. Been proven wrong before. No doubt it'll happen again. Be bigger upsets than this. Mark my words for it. I'd be surprised if Jay Quigley wins, but there's certainly been bigger upsets. I'll put it like this. I think Kiko Martinez beating Kid Galahad to be a bigger upset than this. Was a bigger upset than this if Jay Quigley wins. Because that really shocked me. I was just like, what? This would be like, oh, didn't see that coming, but meh, Jay Quigley, yeah, maybe the stars aligned. Do you know what sort of way? So, who knows? That could happen, who knows? I'm going with Demetrius Andrade, late stoppage. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hope you enjoyed it. If you could, help your boy out, smash the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. For now, lads and lassies, I will talk to you.